Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first episode of my healing journey podcast. It's a lot for me too. When I say the word healing, don't be too scared. It's a scary word for me. I'm only just starting the process of healing, so you're gonna be in the ride with me. Now, let me introduce myself. I am Eloise or Ellie. I like to think as Eloise as more of my protector, comforter, big sister, and Ellie as more as my inner child. I'm balancing the two at the moment. I'm trying to figure out when I need one and when I need the other. So even in these situations, even when I'm talking with you, it might be a bit messy, but that's fine. Life is messy. You've just got to embrace it. Embrace it as much as you can and the best that you can. I am 26. I'm British, as you can probably tell from my accent, but I've lived most of my life in Spain. And I am currently in Spain. I'll give you a quick little show of my view in a second. This is my new apartment. I've only been here for I think 4 days, like 3, 4 nights. It's my dream first apartment. I can't complain. It's not the cheapest, but what a savings for. It's part of my healing process. I knew that living on my own was something that I needed to do, and I was 100% right because when I got here, I just had this massive wave of happiness in my heart. I literally burst out crying. So sometimes you just don't need to follow what you think is right because of money circumstances. The apartment situation, like cost of living, like everything's just a mess. Just follow your heart. That's what it's there for. You learn to feel before you learn to think. So it's quite likely that what you feel is right, your intuition, and later on down the line, you'll be able to make sense of it thought wise. Anyway, I'm going on a bit of a detour. I started therapy about 9, 10 months ago, and I wanted to share my experience because everyone, when they first start therapy, is scared as fuck. Like, if you know you need therapy, then I think you're even more scared to go. And the longer you wait out, the scarier it gets because you just end up piling more trauma on top of the trauma, let's be honest. So it gets scarier and scarier. And I was 100% scared, but I want to let you know when that fear means you're ready, because that fear isn't going to go anywhere. It's always going to be there. And I'm going to try and talk to you at the moment as if you were my 15-year-old self, because when I was 15, that's when I realized that I needed to go to therapy, but I was too scared. And I also had fear of judgment from other people around me and what they would think about me going to therapy, especially in the village that I grew up in. I don't know if there's anyone that goes to therapy. So I know what it feels like, and I want to let you know when it's time to go. I also want to share my experience because as I'm starting this new healing journey and I'm fully going into it now, I'm diving into the pain, I'm diving into the feelings. When you begin to do that, you just completely reframe yourself and reframe your view on the world and what you want from it. And I know that I'm not speaking to a lot of people from my old life. And it's not that I don't care about you. It's not that I'm not thinking about you. It's just that right now you can't give me what I need. And it's quite likely that you make so hard for me to explain when you haven't been through it. And I think it's something that further on down the line, I'll have the thoughts to come with the feelings, but my feelings are telling me right now, I just need to take some distance from everyone who was in my life before, because it wasn't right. My life wasn't right. I wasn't right. And now I'm finding myself and I'm finding what is right for me. And I need to respect that because I love myself, as you should too. And it doesn't mean that I don't love you any less. It just means that right now we're on very different wavelengths, and those wavelengths just aren't working with each other. Maybe one day they will again, but right now we're on different paths, and that's fine. That's part of our process. Yeah, the chair's very squeaky. I apologize. Now, forget about me. Forget about yourself. Just, yeah, almost forget about yourself and forget about your thoughts. And I really just want you to try and tune in with what you're feeling when I talk about my own experience of starting therapy. And it is a lot. So, what I'd like to do is do a few deep breaths. Now, this is something that I've learned recently that really helps me ground me when I'm feeling anxiety. And I am feeling anxiety at the moment because this is a big deal for me too. So, what we're going to do is just breathe in through our nose and breathe out through our mouths. Nothing nothing too serious, nothing too complicated. All it does is just calm you down because you're actively thinking about your breathing. Now, when you breathe in, I'd like you to breathe into your stomach, because how I think about it is when you breathe into your stomach, you're breathing into your second brain. So that's why you feel more grounded. And then when you breathe into your heart, into your chest, it's because your heart needs to pump more. It needs to get more blood around you because you might be feeling fear or you might be feeling anxiety. And some of us have actually been subconsciously trained to just breathe into our chest because we've had that anxiety and fear in our body our whole lives and we haven't been able to get it out. So when you intentionally breathe into your stomach, especially if you naturally breathe into your chest, it will calm you down. If you like, if you're in a safe place with another person, what you could even do is look into each other's eyes and do this. So you can look into my eyes when I do this with you, or you can just breathe. But this is my first little breathing exercise to just calm our anxiety. So, ready? Very simple. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. One last time. Breathe in. And breathe out. When you breathe out, try and make an audible sound of breathing out, because that is your body's natural way of telling you you've done something that's good for yourself. You know, like when you sit on the sofa after a long day at work, you audibly go, it's your body thanking you for doing something that's good for it. So when you actually do something that you know is good for you, but it makes you feel anxious, maybe you're setting a boundary, try and just it's like you're consciously rewiring your nervous system to say, no, this is safe. I'm doing what's best for me. Okay, now I've got that out of the way. I'm going to go into a little bit more of my experience of what therapy is like. And I think this is where Ellie is going to come out a little bit more. First of all, I want to say who this video is not for. This video is not for people who are just being nosy and watching my video and think they don't need therapy because they're fine and they have no problems. You are in denial and or have even bigger problems, because the world that we live in, we all need therapy. It doesn't matter if you don't have any childhood trauma, which, to be honest, I think the majority of us have, just from an emotional neglect side, just because of our parents' generation, but also societal conditioning. The world that we live in doesn't necessarily want the best for you. And if you haven't realized that and felt it, then yeah, you're probably not going to think you need therapy because you're just stuck in this loop of society and then wondering why you have anxiety or why you don't feel yourself or why something's just not quite there. But because you're fine and functioning, you think that you're fine. That's just a little plant of seed for you, maybe. But that, yeah, just needed to say that this video is not for people who think they're fine. Now, who this video is for, now this is actually harder for me to explain because healing, like therapy is one thing, healing, like going into the root of your problems, this is what I'm talking about, like properly healing and diving into the pain, not you've got anxiety, I'm going to give you this, you've got this, you need to do this, 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 and this. I'm talking about someone guiding you through your feelings to a point where you fully start to heal, because that's what's happened with me, and I'll explain that. But you'll know when you're ready, when there's the fear around therapy is never going to go. So get rid of that delusion that, oh, I'll go to therapy when I'm ready. You're never going to feel ready. That fear is not going anywhere. In fact, it's just going to get bigger, 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 and bigger, because your problems are just going to pile on to more problems, because your trauma is still there. If your trauma is there and you're not doing anything about it, it's affecting you, whether you realize it or not. But if you're interested in therapy, if you're curious about it, but there's just a fear there, maybe listening to my story will help you a bit. As I said, I knew I needed therapy when I was 15, but I was too scared to go. I'm now 26. I started going therapy when I was 25, so it took me 10 years to finally get the guts to go. And it takes guts. It really does. I understand why people are scared to go, but if you don't go and you know you have trauma, you're going to live the rest of your life just functioning, feeling fine. You're never going to wake up excited about your life because you've built it on your own terms and on your own feelings. I try not to get too deep, but it's that this whole process has just been so intense and so much more powerful than I thought it was going to be. So yes, let me tell you about how it started. And in all my other videos, we will eventually get on to everything else when I feel ready. So I need some water. I realized that I needed to go to therapy. Well, I realized when I was 15, but I decided I was actually going to go to therapy and took it seriously last November. And I was sat on a terrace in Spain. It was my parents' apartment, and it's on the beach. So I was out, sat like this with my coffee, like I've got now, with my laptop, and I was looking out into the sea. And I knew that I would be moving to Barcelona eventually. And I had this thought process in my head that I want to be able to go to Barcelona with the best mindset that I possibly can. And I wanted to be able to build good, healthy, stable relationships that didn't end up making me feel like shit. Um, yeah, all my romantic relationships, and I was realizing that my friendships also were just not right. And I really struggled with making friends, and I just couldn't understand why. So I was like, before I go to Barcelona and basically start afresh, I want to make sure that I've got that set in stone, because I want to get it right this time. So when I was sat on the balcony and when I was there, I kind of looked for therapists who were in my local area, because I wanted to be in person and I can't drive. I know. I don't really care, to be honest, but I know, whatever. So yeah, I looked for therapists in my local area, and I found one who was literally like just around the corner from me. She seemed like she had quite a cool vibe. So I kind of put her down as a therapist that I would get in contact with when, I don't know what I thought, to be honest. I just wrote the contact down. And then I had a lovely time in Torok, seeing my friends. I got back home. I was probably there for like a week, getting back into things. And then I thought about therapy, and I was like, actually, I feel all right now. Like, I'm back home, I'm working, I've got my schedule going. I was functioning. And then I get a text message from someone, and this was someone who I used to live with. And it was just a situation that really threw me back, even though I was expecting it. It was a text message that I had a gut feeling that I was going to get one day, and it's not really a normal gut feeling that you should have. And in my head, I was thinking, well, if I see this coming, then it's going to make it better when it actually happens. Absolutely fucking not. Because because when it then happened, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I knew that text message was coming. So why didn't, and like, it's hurt me. So why didn't I say anything before? Why didn't I speak up in the situation when like it was available to me? I realized in that moment, I was like, there is actually something wrong with me. So that's when I had a pretty depressive like episode, and I was like, I need a fucking therapist. So I called Kerry in a pretty stable state, and then my therapist is called Kerry in a pretty stable state, and then um she asked me a few questions, and I immediately burst out crying because I just felt so fucking stupid. If I swear, this is Ellie. I feel just so stupid for not going to therapy before, because it's like all my trauma just hit me in the face, and I was like, oh fuck, I am messed up. So yeah, but then because the trauma like hit me in the face, I was even more hesitant to then talk to this woman about all my trauma, because I was like, I really need a safe place to talk about this, because there's things I haven't told anyone, and like I have to confide in this person that I don't know. So she could tell on the phone that this was a really big deal for me. She was like, I can tell like you've been working up towards this, and I was like, yeah. What the next step is after that usually is I just go in for a session with her. But I was like, can I just come in for 15 minutes and have a chat and like see if I feel safe? So yeah, I sit down in her, she's got like this little area in her house, like in her garden, and it's really nice. It felt quite homely in there, which was nice. And I started talking to her about everything, and I did feel really comfortable with her. I was able to speak about things already that I hadn't really spoken about properly. But now, if you've been to therapy before, you might know this, or maybe they did it and you didn't realize what therapists do in order to see if you're actually ready for proper healing. They make you feel uncomfortable. So a typical tactic that they do is when you tell them something that actually might be quite a big deal for you, they won't say anything. They will just, and like absolutely no reaction. And just sat there like, the fuck? Like, I've just poured my heart out to you. But what they're doing is they're trying to see if you're ready with feeling uncomfortable. Because if you're not ready with feeling uncomfortable, especially around your trauma and feeling the pain around it, then you're not ready for healing. So I came out of that therapy session and I felt a little bit uncomfortable. I was like, she just felt a bit off, but I was intrigued. I was like, what is going on there? So that's why I went back. Yeah, so if you feel uncomfortable in your first therapy sessions, that's not uncommon. That is probably your therapist trying to do something. Yeah, and I wanted to point that out because I know other people who have not gone to therapy for that kind of reason, like the therapist did something weird and it made them feel uncomfortable. But maybe look up what they did because it could actually be intentional to see if you're ready for their method of healing or just healing in general. Like, I'm not a therapist, so I don't know the specifics, but I do know that one thing. So, yeah, I left. I felt uncomfortable. And then I went back in my first therapy session. I kind of just spoke about my most recent ex boyfriend and what had gone on there because that's what the text message was about. It was literally after the first session. I was like, okay, we're done with that. Let's move on to something else. And then in the next therapy session, I spoke about one of my friends, which I wasn't expecting, but I realized after being with them that they had similar things to my ex that were actually quite toxic, like within the relationship dynamic and just their way of being. And they actually didn't make me feel safe. So that's when I realized that this is actually an issue. Like there's something going on here. And that's when my therapist realized, I think, what the issue was. I think she's been through something similar. And that's why I vibe with her so well also. So what we did is she made me get a piece of paper, a pen. She asked me to draw out what my ideal person in a relationship, friendship, doesn't matter, looks like. And I was like, doesn't matter. So I just drew a stick man. And then she helped me list all the qualities that I need in a relationship in order for me to feel nourished, safe, respected, and in order for it to be a healthy relationship for me. And I still have this piece of paper, so I'd like to show it to you. It's in a way, it's in a state because I think I went out for a walk with it in the rain. I like to have a little walk in the rain, especially in England. Like, what else is there to do in England to heal? You can't rely on the sun. Okay, here is my little stick man with all my things. Hopefully you can see it properly. So I can read them out if you like. We have respect, effort, validating, positive, vulnerability, emotional depth, safety, empathetic, self-reflection, adventurous, that's just my own little one, and accountability. So we wrote all these things down. I looked at them and related them back to my ex-boyfriends. I looked at them and related them to my friends. And then at the end of the session, she asked me if I was ready to do therapy, to really get into it, because she recognized it was not going to be an easy process for me. And she did warn me about that. She warned me about how much energy it would take from me. But I was like, yes, like I am not living like this. And she said, okay, cool. Next time, we're going to talk about your mum. That's what she said to me. And I'm like, excuse me? Now, at this point in my life, when I thought about my mum, she was just my goddess, my angel. She was perfect. And if you knew my mum, well, yeah. If you knew my mum, you probably see her like that too. And that is fine. That is your relationship that you had with her. And you are perfectly right to have that angelic view of her, because she was that. But I hadn't looked at our actual relationship, even as I passed into adulthood. And that's because she had been ill for a very long time. And I think I was just clinging on to her. Yeah, so when my therapist said that, I kind of had a shock of, I don't want to think about my mum passing, because that was my fear. That was my instant thought. I was like, I don't want to think about that, because that's what I thought she was talking about. But then as I got home and I had this piece of paper in my hand, I had this little thing that I then walked out in the rain with, and then looked at these things, and I related them back to my parents, and I related it back to my family. And I was like, there are some actually big points on here that I don't feel like I have. And then as I wanted to work on them with the family, actually the points just got worse and worse, which I wasn't expecting. And that is a whole other story and a whole other potential video if I want to talk about that. But that is how I started, not even started, started the journey towards healing. And then 9 months in, I'm now healing. And that's how I got there. It wasn't easy. It took a lot of pain even to start, a lot of crying, but it's the best thing I ever did. If I hadn't done it, I would never be living for my actual self. I would be living for other people, and I wouldn't be feeling my heart and feeling my soul. And if you're listening to this and you really resonate with that, and when you think of therapy, there's fear there and it's uncomfortable, that's a sign that you're ready, because therapy and healing and like really getting in there, you're gonna feel pain. You're gonna feel pain and uncomfortableness and feelings that you've never felt in your whole entire life. But it's worth it, because you're going to reconnect with your soul. And that sounds really deep of me, but it's true. I haven't been feeling my soul. Can you feel your soul? Maybe think about that. Or are you maybe drinking it away, gymming it away, social mediaing it away? Because feeling the actual pain of your soul, of the things that you've been through, is too much. But it isn't too much, because if you keep going down, it's just filled with light and love for yourself and for others. And I'm not quite there yet. I've got a lot of triggers, I've got a lot of things I need to work through, but I can feel that love, I can feel that light. I'm literally seeing the world in a whole different way. And I don't think I have people, well, I'm now finding people, I haven't had people in my life that also see the world in this way. And that's also why I'm sharing my experience. I'm going to bring you with me. Come with me. Come feel your fucking soul. I think that's mainly everything. There's like a plant analogy that I thought of the other day, and I kind of want to end with that. Think of yourself as a plant. You're not a leaf. You don't want to wish away with everyone and just be convinced by what everyone else is doing. You want to be a tree. You want to be a tree. You want to be grounded. You want to be rooted. You want to be like in the core with yourself and with your soul and what you want. But at first, you are a plant, and I would say I'm definitely a fucking plant right now. I was a leaf. I was a leaf. Now I'm a plant, like a little baby plant. I will eventually get to a tree. But if you think about this plant, right? Let's say you are a plant, yeah, and you've been growing and growing. You've been putting water on this plant, and you've been putting it in the sun in the right places, and suddenly this plant just doesn't. It's not growing anymore. It's not doing anything, and you can't figure out why. So you go to the shop and you buy loads of plant food, and you give it some plant food, and it goes up a little bit more, but then it keeps stopping. It's like it's stuck. It won't get any further, because maybe you don't need more water, you don't need more sun, you don't need more chemicals. Maybe you just need to change the soil of where the roots are. The roots, okay? Talk about your roots. Because your roots are your soul. Yeah, maybe you just need to reconnect with your soul of who you are when you were born, because you were born that, I believe, for a reason. That's my thought process anyway. Let me know what you think. And yeah, if you've liked this first video of me talking about how I started my healing journey, and if you have any questions, please ask. I love questions. And yeah, please follow. And I'm going to try and think of different ideas of what I want to talk about, and I want to help you. If you have any questions, again, please ask. And yeah, thank you for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Any advice as well, please let me know, because I looked at other therapy videos and they're all just very serious, and therapy is scary enough anyway. Like, I just want to make it a bit more Ellie, a bit more, like, just fuck it, go to therapy. Love ya, proud of ya, keep going. Before I forget, welcome to my crib with my cat. It's not my cat. But yes, this is our little view. Look at the view. Isn't it fucking stunning?